For me, yeah, I sort of like struggled with that because I've sometimes judged her for being so confident, which I think is like not fair, right?
Yeah, you're such a bad daughter.
I'm a terrible daughter.
It's based on a beautiful, really important book, and it's about a young woman named Lily who confronts the generational cycles in her life.
From the moment fans discovered that a film version of the popular novel It Ends With Us was in the works, excitement skyrocketed. The book's central themes, love, self-discovery, and resilience, appeared ideally suited to Blake Lively's broad acting abilities and Justin Baldoni's reputation for heartfelt storytelling. Early photographs from the set hinted at a refined production style, prompting speculation about inventive costume choices and comedic flourishes that might refresh the emotional gravity of the original novel. But those hopeful rumors were soon overwhelmed by dramatic legal disputes and astounding accusations, culminating in a sensational courtroom development, allegedly triggered by a single phone call that changed the entire legal course and prompted Blake Lively to exhibit a previously unseen side of herself. Even before the legal confrontations, murmurs of strife had circulated among those in Hollywood's inner circles. Some sources said Lively and Baldoni disagreed over the film's intended tone. Lively reportedly envisioned more glamorous fashion elements and comedic touches, whereas Baldoni hoped to remain faithful to the novel's introspective nature. As with most on-set tensions, observers assumed the conflict would be ironed out in due time. Instead, it escalated further, and Lively shocked her supporters when she announced her suspicion that she had been marginalized and pressured into promotions that contradicted her creative instincts. Within a matter of days, Baldoni's legal counsel fired back with a defamation suit. This abrupt move was startling, especially to those who had followed Baldoni's track record for empathy in his professional work. His claim asserted that Lively's public statements could cause substantial harm to his reputation.
She said, just read it, because I was looking for movies that could be commercial and speak to the human experience. And
Were you reading romance novels?
And I had never read a romance novel.
Never?
And she said, just trust me, read it. So I read it, and by the end of the book, I couldn't even read the text on the page because I was crying so much. My wife was in bed next to me, and she's, I got snot coming out of my nose.
I for sure fell short, and you worked really hard on that, and the way you framed it, and how that made you feel. I just want to say thank you for sharing that with me. That takes a lot of trust and vulnerability, and I feel really grateful that you feel safe enough to tell me that that's how you feel and share that with me. And I'm really sorry. I f***ed up. That is a fail on my part. One thing you should know about me is I will admit and apologize when I fail. I am far from perfect. I am a very flawed man, as my wife will attest. And and I'm gonna f*** up. I'm gonna say the wrong thing. I'm gonna put my foot in my mouth. I'm gonna piss you off, probably, but I will always apologize.
Rumors indicated that the damages might reach hundreds of millions, should he manage to corroborate his allegations. What started as a squabble over comedic versus earnest storytelling took on the weight of a high-stakes legal dispute, and it showed no sign of cooling down. The temperature rose even higher when Baldoni accused Lively, or people in her circle, of planting or altering documents intended to portray him as the main driver behind creative decisions she later disowned. The suspicion hinged on allegedly questionable email logs and inconsistencies in timestamps, suggesting certain items that supported Lively's perspective might have been manipulated. No party offered direct proof at first, but simply the notion that an A-list star might engineer counterfeit evidence caused tremors in an industry where behind-the-scenes tension is common, but seldom at this level of magnitude. As this drama circulated through tabloids and social media, fans were split. Lively loyalists pointed to her long-standing record of professionalism, insisting she would never resort to falsifying documents. Baldoni supporters countered that his entire brand is built on genuineness and compassion, making it equally difficult to imagine him inventing a claim about tampered evidence. The back-and-forth chatter dominated entertainment media. Then, as onlookers settled in for what seemed like a prolonged legal slog, a single afternoon in court transformed the narrative in spectacular fashion. During a routine hearing originally meant to schedule the discovery phase, one of Baldoni's attorneys introduced a previously unknown piece of evidence, a phone call recording that had somehow only recently emerged. The courtroom reportedly fell silent. According to those present, the judge permitted both legal teams to listen to the audio privately first, to decide whether it would be admissible in open court. Almost instantly, rumors abounded that the call provided revealing context about who had truly championed comedic additions and who later reversed their stance in response to fan sentiment. Some accounts claimed the call was between Lively and a top-level producer, possibly recorded as part of common practice for complex film productions. Others suggested it was a personal conversation, accidentally documented, and later shared by someone hoping to bring the truth to light. No matter the circumstances, the content of the recording was supposedly so explosive that the courtroom atmosphere turned electric as both legal teams leaned in to hear it.
I mean, honestly, the way that I get into a character is through their style. So it was more about who Lily is that was so fascinating to me, is that she's a walking, talking contradiction, yet it's perfectly harmonious for her.
Hey, Blake. It is 2 in the morning. Hopefully this does not wake you up. Whew. Wow. There's so much I want to say to you, and I hope that we can FaceTime or see each other in person soon and get to talk more. But I'm just going to send you a few thoughts, and hopefully it's not going to be more than a few minutes. But that I don't have the best track record. I don't think either one of us have the best track record for our voice memos. I want to start with an apology. Man, reading the second part of your message, my heart sank, and I'm really sorry.
Though no official transcript has been published, people close to the legal proceedings claim that Blake Lively's reaction to the audio was immediate and unmistakable. The previously hushed environment reportedly filled with a palpable tension reminiscent of a dramatic finale. Lively, who had maintained composure in earlier appearances, was visibly shaken by what she heard. In the days that followed, online outlets sensationalized her response, with headlines proclaiming she lost it after realizing the call's legal ramifications. The lawsuit's labyrinthine path had taken a sudden, jolting turn. Friends and colleagues of Lively were quick to challenge the characterization that she had exhibited extreme behavior. They suggested that her reaction was understandable if the audio was introduced in a way that distorted its real meaning. They argued that if she did lose her cool, it was likely because the evidence appeared without warning and offered only selected pieces of the conversation rather than the whole context. Nonetheless, to many observers, seeing the famously poised actress so visibly unnerved in a courtroom implied that the call might undermine her story or spark an epiphany about how her creative role was being represented. Speculation about the call's specific content ran wild. One theory suggested it captured Lively enthusiastically championing comedic additions or elaborate wardrobe ideas, contrasting her claims that she was forced into them. Another possibility was that she was privately criticizing Baldoni's vision in a manner that implied she intended to retreat from certain artistic choices if the public backlash was severe. Others speculated the call might include references to directives from studio executives or other outside figures, indicating that the conflict was only one aspect of a broader network of interests. Regardless of the precise details, the sudden appearance of a phone recording that no one expected threw the lawsuit into a new realm of volatility. Armed with this fresh ammunition, Baldoni's lawyers pushed forward. If the phone call held up to scrutiny, they argued, it supported their assertion that Lively was initially on board with comedic or showy aspects before pivoting when it became clear that fans of the source novel wanted a more sincere approach. Lively's legal team countered that the audio was being twisted or pulled out of context.
We always tease each other. He was, after I gave birth, he was like, oh my gosh, if I lost you and I, went to the park with our 3 kids, think of the ladies I can. This is a horrible thing to say. And he's like, I've got a long list. And I was like, oh, really? Because I just have one on my list. I don't have anyone on my list.
And then it wasn't funny anymore.
No, it's so much more of a burn. He's like, wait, who? And I was like, think of someone. Bob Newhart, I don't know.
Much more to say. There's so much I want to say. And there's one thing that I do need to say, which is I am so sorry you have been through what you've been through with these other filmmakers and producers or whoever the people were that you worked with. It just pissed me off. Those that I'm just still kind of blown away that this is the industry that we're in and that you've experienced that as a woman. And I know I don't need to say it, but that's not at all going to be, or will be, and hopefully it's not been the experience with me. There's nothing more exciting to me, like that I get to work with Blake Lively and have her, all of her. I mean, that's what I want. And so there's been no hesitancy with me sending you the final draft file. I am totally fine with that. The only reason I didn't send it today was because I was trying to implement and add your notes into my working draft, which is already, like, I'm all over that draft right now. So there's a whole bunch of new stars that are going to be collated pages. And I just haven't had a chance to send it to you.
Diverting attention from her consistent reservations. If her sharp response in the courtroom was dramatic, they contended, it was primarily because she knew that a single recorded conversation could overshadow her larger narrative about feeling creatively sidelined. This development arrived on top of broader concerns about fabricated emails or tampered documents. Baldoni's argument was that suspicious digital records pointed to a deliberate effort to depict him as neglectful of Lively's creative input. If the call contradicted those documents, it might be his most compelling evidence yet. Insiders supportive of Baldoni felt that he could prove Lively was not only open to comedic or flamboyant elements, but had actively advocated for them, making it tough for her to maintain that she had been bullied into anything. From Lively's vantage point, the sudden emergence of the recorded call raised questions. If this phone call had such major importance, why hadn't it surfaced earlier? Her supporters suspect that it might have been supplied by a peripheral participant who was eager to gain favor with Baldoni or with Disney, which recently established ties with him. They whispered that introducing this audio so late in the game was a calculated strategy to unsettle Lively in court and discredit her in front of the judge. Whether or not the timing was orchestrated, it did manage to shift public focus dramatically. Lively's emotional reaction to the evidence dominated the news cycle, placing the more intricate legal points of the lawsuit in the background. Those observing the industry note that major studios often side with a trusted director or producer, especially when there are potential future collaborations on the horizon. It's entirely possible that undisclosed agreements or negotiations hinge on Baldoni's continued partnership with Disney, giving him substantial corporate backing in this expensive legal fight. Yet from Lively's perspective, such institutional support might feel like an overwhelming force lined up against her. Her courtroom outburst, whether it was anger or dismay, could reflect the shock of realizing that a critical piece of evidence was deployed unexpectedly. In the meantime, loyal readers of It Ends With Us look on, baffled at the chaos, wondering if the movie adaptation will ever come to fruition.
It's a bit of a tough adjustment in our house, but it's good. I mean, I have two other daughters, so my oldest is very into the baby, but my middle child, not so much. But we're thinking of keeping her.
Does she like play with her? What does she think?
Well, she sort of like pretends to play with her. So like in the beginning, our oldest is like loving on her, and she's like very maternal, and then our middle daughter is just keeps away from her.
Talking like this, me into my phone at 2 a.m, but largely via text and voice note. And I will be honest with you, that is not my biggest strength. I love being with people and being in somebody's space and being face to face, and I feel like that's where I excel, and definitely fallen short at times in our text and voice note exchanges, because there's so much to communicate and there's so much happening, and all that to say, I'm just really looking forward to spending time together, and I think that's going to really go a long way for our chemistry, which I believe is there and has been there from the start. So I was so damn excited when you wanted to do this film. I felt it in the room when we met, and yeah, I think it does come from the both of us being hardworking and having a vision and not settling.
The novel is beloved for its candid, thoughtful depiction of relationships and self-growth. Many fans anticipated that a Lively Baldoni collaboration would honor that spirit. Now, with the spotlight shifting so definitively to litigation, the artistic side of the project has been overshadowed. Instead of buzz about which novel scenes might translate elegantly to the screen, the discourse revolves around who doctored emails, who embraced comedic themes first, and what the disputed phone call ultimately reveals. Perhaps partly due to these events, supporters of Lively have grown more vocal than ever. A chorus of actors, directors, and even fashion industry professionals have stepped up to applaud her honesty and collaborative style. They mention how she has repeatedly contributed to creative discussions while remaining respectful of collective objectives. Should the phone call prove that she did, at one point, advocate for comedic interludes, her defenders say it still wouldn't necessarily invalidate her claims of being sidelined. She may have been nudged into accepting a bigger comedic vision that quickly spiraled beyond her initial comfort level. They assert that one phone call alone cannot reflect the complex nature of shifting studio mandates, executive notes, or the fan-driven demands that may have prompted Lively to realize a more serious adaptation was the right move. Nonetheless, Lively's immediate concern is salvaging her story in the face of the phone call's impact. She continues to insist that she was excluded from decision-making, coerced, and ultimately placed in a position of selling a concept she did not fully endorse. Baldoni, on the other hand, reiterates that all creative steps were made jointly until Lively recognized that the book's following wanted a different direction. Now, with a phone recording seemingly suggesting Lively was far more proactive about comedic or showy components, momentum could be shifting in Baldoni's favor. One question remains. Will there be additional phone calls? Is more evidence, like email threads, about to drop that could either confirm or contradict the charges of altered communications? Is there a previously silent witness who might come forward to illuminate the inconsistencies? The uncertainty grows daily. In a business renowned for its dramatic narratives, the real-life clash between Lively and Baldoni has become the most riveting show in town, reminding everyone that off-screen conflicts can rival and sometimes surpass the intensity of the fictional stories Hollywood loves to tell.
A lot of it's my real life clothes or my husband's clothes or my girlfriend Gigi's clothes. I was borrowing some.
Wait, that's kind of amazing. So you have something of Gigi's in the movie.
Yeah, it's like a wedding, like something old, something borrowed, something blue, something new.
Wait, which
except
one?
it's just,
Now I want to think of the scene.
Oh,
So-
I'm wearing her stuff all over it.
Oh, really?
And tons of like Bodhi, which is with the suit now that I'm wearing is Bodhi. It was meant for my husband, but I
Wait,
borrowed
that's
it.
his suit?
It was meant for him to wear, but it's so pretty. Look at it. You guys are not getting it in the shot.
And find my way back to center. That is one thing I can assure you of. And I'm sorry I made you feel that way. That must have felt terrible. And I will for sure do better. That was not my best weekend, and I should have given it more time. And damn right, you got great friends if that's how you felt and they knew that. And we should all have friends like that, aside from the fact that they're two of the most creative people on the planet. The three of you guys together is unbelievable. Talk about energy and just a force, all three of you. But I just wanted you to know that I didn't need that, because it's really good and it's going to make the movie sing like you said, and I'm excited to go through the whole movie with you. I'm just excited to spend time with you. I'm excited to be in your sphere and your presence, and for us to share creative juices together, although that sounds terrible. I think you and I have been trying to build a relationship, which I think we've done successfully. I mean, here we are.
However it concludes, the image of Blake Lively responding so forcefully in court is likely to be a lasting emblem of this entire incident. Whether it was a justifiable burst of anger or a public sign of desperation depends largely on one's perspective. The latest hearing, dominated by the bombshell introduction of the phone call, concludes in a haze of uncertainty. If the audio stands up, Lively's account may need substantial reworking. If it's shown to be incomplete or inadmissible, Baldoni's sudden advantage might vanish as quickly as it appeared. All the same, this episode highlights just how fast things can pivot in the high-stakes realm of celebrity legal battles. When observers had expected a slow procession of depositions and expert testimonies, one phone call evidently turned the tables. Blake Lively, typically known for her refined poise, revealed her raw humanity, likely surprising even those who consider themselves her biggest admirers. Did this represent the moment when her meticulously cultivated image collided with the stark challenges of courtroom warfare? Perhaps? Or maybe it was simply the natural reaction of someone blindsided by a crucial piece of evidence, stripped of the context she deems essential. The fate of It Ends With Us is now entangled with digital forensics, the possibility of settlement, and the strategic plays both sides will employ moving forward. Given the public scrutiny, it could stretch on for months or even longer. Fans and insiders will monitor every leak and rumor, hunting for hints about whether the eventual film will remain true to the novel's emotional essence or become inextricably tainted by the behind-the-curtain turmoil. Ultimately, The phone call saga underscores how colossal and unpredictable celebrity feuds can become when they enter the legal domain. If further calls or documents emerge, the drama will only intensify, affecting not just Lively's and Baldoni's reputations, but also the broader direction of the adaptation. At this stage, the pressing question is whether any definitive truth can shine through the swirl of rumors, courtroom strategy, and human emotion that have shaped this affair from the outset. Whatever happens, Blake Lively's response to the unexpected revelation in court is likely to be etched into Hollywood memory, capturing the fragile line between a carefully managed public narrative and the disruptive power of unforeseen evidence.